Welcome to the True Leaders podcast, where we dive deep into the stories, strategies, and mindsets of individuals who are not just at the top, but who are truly shaping our world for the better. Join us as we uncover what it takes to lead with purpose, integrity, and real impact.
Coming across the word indigenous rights, but we have indigenous rights, and our leaders need to understand this. Ms. Anastasia, how do you define cultural awareness leadership, and why is it essential? You being having global clients in your business.
This is actually a very good question and a very good topic that is not really discussed these days among leaders and among people in general. People think that they just like to put labels. Oh, they're from Ukraine, or they're from Russia, or they're from that country, or they're from that country. But my definition of cultural leadership comes from understanding. Going back to learning the history of that country, learning about the traditions, because, every country and every religion has different things, and the way they do things, the way they do business as well. So it's very important for us to, first of all, be aware that there is no general culture in the world. Every single country has its own culture and its own history. And then second, following from awareness, and there's understanding, there's understanding and acceptance that we all are different. We are the same souls, but in different bodies, we're living in different societies, we are surrounded by different governments, and I think governments these days, they kind of forget where everything comes from, where we forget about our roots. And it's very important for us as adults to keep these traditions, to keep the spirit of our country, of our ancestors alive, because we cannot just if we're moving abroad or if we're moving to a different country, of course we will adapt to those traditions and to those religions, and to those day-to-day tasks and jobs. But it's very important for us to not forget about the roots. So I think the roots are very important, and for us to keep the traditions, to keep the culture, to keep all this, to transmit all this to our children, to our grandchildren, and the following generations is very important, because otherwise everything will be lost. Everything will be lost, and we will just wake up one day and we're going to be like, okay, I'm living in my country, but there's something else going on, So the responsibility lies on us. The responsibility lies on every single citizen. It doesn't matter if they're police, if they're a doctor, we still have to keep those, the history alive, like the background, the culture, the religion, the traditions as well. I think it's very important.
That's a very interesting take that you had in there. I'm trying to marry the two conversations, educated based on leadership. Going to the next question, Dr. Dellington. What are some of the most common cultural misunderstandings that leader faces, and how can they be avoided?
Okay. What are some of the most common cultural misunderstandings that leaders face? There are multiple common cultural misunderstandings that I have much regard for African leadership. Okay, but looking at the way they have managed the affairs of the people, I don't give credit anymore. Now, it's stabilized for a very long time, but it's a shame that the issues that are troubling Africa today is mismanagement of leadership focus, leadership goals, leadership ambitions. What you see in Africa today are personal individuals with personal interest. Now, first of all, there is personal psychological conflict going on in the mindset of one African leader, whether on the small scale, on the large scale. Everybody has, most of the African leadership we're seeing today most of them are personally confused with their own goals and the goals of the people. Now, the goals of the people are not properly managed, and that has already caused chaotic conflict within the cultural societies of African people. I took my time. I went from borders to border since 2017 till now, even times. Many things caused and contributed cultural misunderstandings. Our leaders does not know how to handle religious crisis. Our leaders don't know how to handle community leadership crisis. Our leaders does not know how to technically deal with poor standard of education. Now, when it comes to issues like prostitution, you see, everywhere in Africa, prostitution is now a menace. But if you ask me, I will tell you it's an abomination. Everybody in the whole world, there's something we call genital rights. People don't understand that word, genital rights. Genital rights is a concession somebody gives to a partner that he or she wants. Your genital organs are not for trade or for business. Everything we have in life has limitations. Our leaders are not understanding how to educate the citizens. So, the misunderstanding that leaders are facing is they don't even understand most precepts that go against normal norms and our attitude today. So, how it can be avoided? It's first of all understanding the do's and the don'ts in that culture. When you come to Nigeria, for example, there's a lot of multidimensional cultures in different places, but all of them are pointing out the same thing. What we condemned before, what caused issues in the past. Cultural laws are meant for a particular purpose, for the next generation to continue existing, attitude that reflect on one's life. You want to like their tea, there's a culture. When I see you for that dinner, not because she invites you because she calls you family. She calls you family, or he calls you family, and that is very, very important to them. It's not everybody that can call for a dinner. So these are cultures of the people, because I have to adhere, and I've seen how respected and hallowed that is. When it comes to Nigeria, our leaders can't educate us with the perfect orientation that the people require. They can't handle, because African democracy was centered by the Europeans, which colonized Africa and introduced a kind of leadership to the people, which the people are going through some difficulties as a result of this particular government that was created by the English. So, handling the cultural problems and handling the crisis that is as a result of political issues and all that, the problem is they require an education. Our leaders don't know what they are doing. They are believing and following the structures of this modern democracy in Africa, which does not reflect the cultural mindset of every African. So, how they can handle this, on how it can be avoided, is, first of all, education of our culture, like this Center for African Traditional Studies and Cultural Affairs. I'm looking up to Nigerian government and the African government to do something, because one, there has to be a cultural state in Africa to exemplify what we used to be and who we are as by right. So there's a lot to talk about in this, but I think how these issues can be avoided, religious crisis that has taken a lot of lives in Africa, but most of the religion in Africa are foreign. The government believes that the religions are right, and individuals believe that some religions are wrong. So who protects those who say it's wrong, and who protects those who is right? So there's a conflict going on in every part of Africa, because our culture were infiltrated by foreign culture, and we don't have value or the potential ability to start firm without educating our leaders. So our leaders require this education. This thing we are saying today, you can't get it in a university. They can't teach you anywhere. This we are saying today. It's as a result of your intellectual research that we come up with this kind of issues we're talking about. So African leaders, I'm talking in terms of Africa, but as at large, the world at large, everyone has to respect their culture so that they can manage the problems that come out of it, so that the people can continue to enjoy their right of freedom. Thank you.
That that's thought provoking. So the whole misunderstanding when it comes to cultural, actually failure to understand the cultural norm of a certain society, and what is required is to educate, starting from our leaders and everyone, and also to respect the culture. So, Miss Anastasia, how can leaders develop their cultural intelligence? How do you think leaders can develop their cultural intelligence?
Well, that's a very good question. In my opinion, the only way to develop cultural intelligence by leaders all over the world is to learn. First of all, learn about every culture, let's say, they don't have to learn about every single country in the world, but just the ones that they are dealing every single day. First of all, it starts with their own culture, and then they have to keep it, when they do negotiations, when they do business with other countries, they have to be aware, and they have to respect that. And once they do that, I think everybody's going to be more aligned, so once they start to ignore those cultural differences, then they lose the credibility as a leader, and they lose the clients. They lose the relationship. So I think it's very, very important for them to first of all study, and maybe speak to somebody who is from that culture, so they can explain them everything. This is what I do personally. If I know that I have to deal with a certain country, and there are cultural differences, I call somebody from my network who is from that country, and I ask them, look, I have a business relationship that I want to keep, and I want to make it long term. So how can I understand their background, their culture, maybe how they do business as well? Because even though we're different people, we live in different countries, but we still kind of keep the traditions even in the way we do business. So I think that this is the only way for leaders to and especially in 2025, and in the next years that will come, I think this is the only way for them to understand that there are different cultures, there are different people, and they have to respect that.
So at the end of the day, the key point around the culture awareness is learning, education, learning, having interest in the culture, having interest in the culture and norms of the next person of the country that you are interacting with. So the next question goes to Dr. Dellington. We are asking, what strategies do you recommend for building trust and rapport with a team member from diverse cultural backgrounds?
Okay, what strategies do you recommend for building trust, rapport with team members from different cultural background? So, the strategies I use normally when I come across people of different cultural diversities, I try to be open. Like, if there are things that will make me uncomfortable in what you're doing, I'll just tell you, say, in my culture, we don't do this. And I believe that goes a long way to respect me for what I've said I will do. And that's the only way we can actually, because a lot of people, like when you're dealing with a Muslim whose culture is adopted by religion, they will tell you they don't do certain things. It's because maybe the artifact they're displaying says they are wearing hijab or something. So you know how to. So they are open. They don't need to speak to you about it. But you have to know that this is the way you deal with people. And let me just correlate it with the government of the people and how they manage the people. Now, our government government, our leaders don't, or they do not try to find out strategies that people can live in harmony with other cultures. There was a seminar I was supposed to do at one of the Air Force bases. You see, it's a multicultural community inside the base. And most conflict are as a result of this is not what is done, this is how it's done in our place. And so there's a lot of confusion going on because we migrate to different places and we meet a lot of people. To be successful, you need to understand what this person or how his culture is being applied, so that you can have a good rapport with that person. The person will be open to you, to communicate to you and all that. There's one of my Vietnamese guy. He tells me this is how he does his things. And if I didn't ask him, how do you do your things? I don't just engage people by just saying, oh, how do you do your things? Oh, in my place, we don't do this by so time. Oh, really? Say yes. Oh, that's great. So that will enable me strategize how to work with that individual. Now, if I build a team for a task, and I know how to work with all of them because I asked them, I was open, I said, please, can you tell me? So most people, leaders, don't really give the right of, being open for, or allowing the people they're working with to have that right to display. So people will be working with you in their mind, they know that this thing is not done, I can't do this in my place and all that. No. So one of the strategies I adopt is I'm an open leader. I bring leadership to an open platform where you can understand me and I understand you, so that we can have that goal achieved and carry everyone along. I think that's okay with that.
That still take us back to the respect of somebody's culture. Like, you ask a person or you tell a person, in our culture we do not do this. And the only way that I can adhere to it or comply with it is when I respect you. So it brings us back to respect of one's culture or norms, or it still brings us back to the topic of respect and learning about other people's culture through openness.
Yes.
So, Ms. Anastasia, the question that's following up is, what are some best practices of creating an inclusive workplace where everyone feels valued and respected?
This is a very interesting one, because I think it really depends on the company and of the company's leaders, as well as in government. So I think everyone should respect there are different nationalities, there are different communities that live in every country, right? So we have to leave them, we have to build schools for them, we have to build churches for them, for different religions. So I think it all depends on the leaders of that country, or of that city, of that business even. But my personal, like, what do I do in my business? So I first, as I said before, I am respectful, for the culture, that because I'm dealing with different cultures, I'm dealing with different nationalities, with different people, all around the world. So I have to respect that. And it comes from, deep knowledge, deep understanding of where they're coming from. So I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say if I have a meeting, with somebody in Nigeria, or somebody in Dubai, I need to align with them. I need to, to respect, to respect their traditions, not to put the meetings, or kind of speak it's sort of like speak their language and adapt to them, rather than me forcing my own traditions, my own kind of cultural background in the way I do business. So I think it's another another great question that not a lot of leaders, and another great practice that everyone should do.
That's a very interesting answer. So it will take us back to education, building this to educate our people. So my question goes again to Dr.